I watched you start in, but I didn't know how to get in. So
It's always the challenge.
interesting.
Always the challenge is usually trying to start something. Once you start it, things flow.
Yeah,
So,
makes sense in life, absolutely. But nice, good to see you, Nicole.
likewise, and wonderful to have you with us. I just roughly introduced you, but we can make a bigger introduction to the topic as well. So I have with me the wonderful Vered Manasse, co-founder and co-director of the Pantarei Approach. And we're going to continue from where we left off last month on the bigger subject of the Q&A about the Pantarei studies. And in specific, talking about trauma, a common question that you get in your introductory meetings that you told me, and also that we often get at the school is, will I work with trauma? Hardly a meeting or connection goes by without somebody asking that question. What do we do with trauma? Who comes to us? What kind of clients do we have in that subject? So anyone who hasn't yet watched our first part of this talk, have a look at our YouTube channel. The recording is up there. And I think it would be nice just to give a little recap, the basic of the Pantarei approach and how it views trauma, how it relates to trauma.
Yes, I can start off as well. Hi everyone. And you know, Nicole, while you were talking, I just thought to myself how, I don't know if it's good, but I'm really happy to know that today people are referring to trauma as if it's something that is, obviously we need to think about it. We need to think about it in a bodywork therapy or in our own kind of, as being practitioners of the Pantarei approach. It's one of those questions that people at all refer to, and I'm truly grateful that this kind of conversation about trauma became just a conversation, as if everyone knows that traumas exist. Everyone knows that trauma, whether it's a big T trauma or just traumas in life, is a share of everyone's life. I don't believe there is a person that in this kind of, people that manage to live their life without being impacted by traumatic events throughout their life. Of course, some people got traumas that are way stronger, impactful, intense than others, but the thing itself that people are go through their life and traumatic events happen to them that they carry with them later. I think it's, first of all, it's good to know that it's already such a common knowledge. It wasn't like that in the past. So I just want to acknowledge that before going into our own conversation.
True. Even when I was growing up 20 years ago, say, trauma was something that happened very rarely to the strange person that you knew of through someone, and that some story was told as if it was a rare occurrence.
Exactly.
Actually, traumatic events are, it's part and parcel of everyone's life.
Exactly. So I don't know if to say. Unfortunately, we all know what trauma is, whether we were impacted very strongly or not. The knowledge of it exists in us. Like before we go to the books, before we go to the therapist, before we go to any other person, we know what does it mean to have such an impact. Pantarei approach, first of all, for the ones of you that maybe are here and don't know anything about the Pantarei approach, that just in 2 sentences, we are talking about mainly somatic practice, but of course, our philosophy goes way beyond the somatic profession. So we teach practitioners to be practitioners of the Pantarei approach, where they give sessions to their clients. And of course, some of those clients suffer or relate to the topic of trauma. The sessions themselves are hands-on, so it's a combination of touch and verbal communication that all comes to emphasize on what we call the uniqueness of the person, the person's resources, and how each one of us we have our own answers. My answers are not the same as Nicole's, and as practitioners, my role is always to listen to my clients, to listen to what they say, but also to listen to their body, to their energy, to their emotions, and to realize how I can almost translate it back to them, how I can teach them or guide them or explore with them how they can use their own unique resources in any challenge they have in their life, including dealing with life traumas from the past. So that's just about the Pantarei Approach itself. When we talked about trauma and Nicole asked me what trauma is, I just said trauma. I used Vered Manasse's definition, which I very much could relate to. The trauma is what is happening in us. It's not the events, it's not what happened to us, but it's the impact that happens in us. And as such, I would say the ability to change something about those traumas exists in us, in each one of us. It's not in an outer force. We can get help, and I think maybe not only I think I really would say getting help or getting somebody's communicate about those kind of things is really important. And I don't think that we can just deal with that by ourselves, but still the experts of how to deal with the same events is in us. So in a way, I'm saying, yes, we need help, we need support, we need somebody to show us things from the outside. But what I believe that that person has to do is to listen to us. What I'm doing with my clients is not to come with all of my expertise. Yes, I'm 30 years already a somatic practitioner. Yes, I'm teaching already for more than 20 years others to be somatic practitioners. And I'm the co-founder of now for 6 years of the Pantarei Approach and running the school and teaching. And yes, I have a lot of experience. But for me, each time a client comes to me, absolutely also, or even more so, with the topic of trauma, I know that they are the experts. I know that they know what they need, and my job is to listen. My job is to ask the questions and to try together to explore how we can gain back the strengths of that clients, how we can activate the resources, and how we can in some way stop or change or transform this circle of people who continue to act just as whatever, as the same way that they acted whenever the trauma happened. So the impact of a trauma, what people are actually relating to when they say, I am suffering from trauma, often it's something in their perception. Their perception in moments change. They are being triggered for something that is happening. A very simple thing. Somebody can give you a compliment, and rather than hearing a compliment, you hear that they want something from you. These are not things that people invented. We are triggered in such a way because something like that happened sometimes in the past. And when clients would come to sessions, this would be kind of the thing that we would have to deal with, to look at, and to think with them how the whole sensation can change. How when somebody would give them a compliment, they would hear a compliment. How when they would meet somebody that they should trust, that they can really trust them, that they would not suspect them even before there is a reason, where they would not feel lonely just because they continued a certain kind of behavior from their own history and past. So this is what we are doing with trauma, or some kind, I hope I summarize what we talked about last time. Maybe I already added things, but for my memory, I think that was part of what we talked about last time.
Yeah, for sure. And as you did beautifully, transition from the part one into part two, adding elements, which is why we have another live about this, because it is such a vast topic, and so now as you mentioned, known or talked about and much more open, people communicate about it a lot more. And with that, what would you say are some of maybe the challenges of working with people who have passed through traumatic events? What kind of clients do you have? What do they bring when you talk about clients coming with trauma?
So first of all, just let's start again a bit. Like when people comes with the topic of trauma, I just want to remind all of us, whoever listens now or whenever you listen to that in the future, we are talking about everyone. It's not those people, it's everyone. And I'm in some ways think that it's important for us to remember it. The challenges in life, if I'm not looking now at they relate to big T and small t, or these kind of big traumas or things that happen to all of us. So if I'm just actually starting from those small or those things that are difficulties, challenges, we didn't get the love we wanted, neglect in our life, but nothing too big, but something that, yes, we felt lonely, we felt that misunderstood, and maybe there was even violence sometimes or aggressions or shouting, things that people know from their life. It's important for us to remember it's everyone, and when we are not talking about traumas that needs a different or in addition attention, I think that the difficulties that we went through in our life are part of who we are. It's some of who we are came to light because of difficult situations we went through. If we would have a just perfect life, the life we all envision when we would like to think about lives that has no traumas, I'm not sure that most of us would like that. All of those moments in our lives that were not so happy, that were very demanding from us, also brought parts of who we are to the surface. And I'm again and again amazed by hearing how people can talk about very difficult events they went through in their life, but you can also hear their strength. It's not, or I'm almost want to say, the last thing that somebody like that needs from us is our pity, our oh poor you. It doesn't feel right. It's not what they feel. It's not what we feel. When I'm thinking about difficult events in my life, there is some kind of almost of pride of, yes, I went through that, and yes, I kept my values, or even my values became stronger or clearer because of those events. I knew what I don't want to do anymore. I knew what other part that I want differently. And so when people comes with trauma, I first of all want us to all remember this is everyone. This is you and me and everyone that we meet. And therefore, we also cannot say that whenever the topic of trauma comes to the surface, we can just say, okay, that's only the other people can deal with that. No, we have to deal with that. It's a society thing. It happens in us and it happens around us. Everyone are part of the story of trauma. It's not only the person that something happened to them. It's that person is the person maybe that somebody told us a story and we didn't actually hear it or we didn't act. It's the societies that all allowed things like that to happen. We are all part of that process that says we deal with trauma. You asked me what are the special things that are, so many people would relate to triggering. So of course the most known experience that I at least can say that yes, a person who went through traumatic events often would find themselves acting in the present moment as if the trauma is happening right now. So they would be afraid of people when they live in a place that is safe, when they have friends, when everything is okay, they still would be afraid of people. They would feel that they cannot trust. They would feel lonely, isolated. They would feel that life can be so harsh, even if everything goes completely according to plans. Of course, there will be sadness and pain and fear and all of those experiences that people carry with them, and emotions that almost kind of continue the same emotion they had before. However, while I'm saying all of that, I want to remind anybody who listens to us, if you already, it's a reminding if you already know something about the Pantarei approach, we always focus on the person, not on the story. We hear the story, we get a lot of information from the story, but we want to focus on the person. The person is more than the event. Things happen before this event, things would happen after that event, and there is a whole vision and wishes and wanting from that person's life. This person wishes and dreams of things in their future, and all of that is what we want. We actually want to bring back to that person their own, I would almost say, identity, sensation of strength, sensation of pride of who they are, of their own values, of their own wishes. So I'm a little bit, you hear me maybe, Nicole, I'm sure you hear that. I'm a bit, I find it almost difficult to say what is the characters of people who went through trauma. What is special about them? So people would talk about dissociations. A client who would suddenly disappear or would disconnect from their body, freeze, fright, and flight. Like it's all of those responses that people would relate to, but I must admit, sorry, I must admit that when I think of clients from the Pantarei perspective, as we do focus on their person, on their resources, on their being, and not on the story, not on the event. Often those kind of responses don't happen as much in my sessions today. They happened in the past. As I said, I'm working as a somatic practitioner for 30 years. In the past, I would focus on the event, I would focus on the pain, I would focus on the fear, I would focus on how the clients trapped emotions in them, and how my job now is to help them release those emotions and turn them into energy. Today, I'm often, when people tell me about the traumatic event, I'll ask way more questions. I'll ask questions about them, about their life, about their hobbies, about their passions, about what do they remember from all of that time in their life. It's never only the horror. Nobody could survive. It was if it would be only the horror. We are, I don't know, we are built in a way that we are always looking for the lights. Even the people that struggle to find the light, still we are built in a way that we always find the light. And I'm often finding myself today as Pantarei Approach practitioner asking the questions to realize what is that light that I'm talking about? What is that person refers to as something that made their heart happy, thrilled, interested, engaged, why they were even connected to that, to those people and to that events, to those events. How they were a part of all of that. What was important for them, because they are not passive people there. It's not that only something happened to them. There was somehow, we are all active in our life. We are actually the central actor in our life. We are even the director of our life, and we are the actor of our life. So what was the part that who are you, who were you at that time? How did you manage with those difficulties? Because the fact that you manage, it's by itself a big wow. We managed to go through really difficult things, and here we are talking about Pantarei, talking about life, talking about visions, talking about our future.
I think that's a very distinguishing feature of the Pantarei approach, is almost broadening that scope of focus, not just looking at, okay, here is someone coming with a horrific story, but who is that person within the story? As you mentioned, who is the actor in that story? What did they learn? What qualities of theirs came to the surface through the challenge? What things did they discover about themselves, about what they put their hopes on, who they connected with, what they discovered and explored in that time. So it's a very different focus completely.
Exactly, and I would add to that who are they? It's really, we are always talking about during the process of their life, not only at the time when whatever happened. It's, it can be a person who created in their profession, they give so much to people. This is who they are. This is part of who they are. And this person who gives so much to others through their professions today somehow was the same child that whatever happened to them happened. And when we start to connect between the two, I always find a connection. I always find something that also before the event, this person was very generous, or they liked when people, they were looking for giving to people. Maybe even the story, the event, the challenge, the drama happened because that was a person who liked to give to other people. This character, this trait might have been used by other people, but we want to focus again and again on the part itself, that you are generous, the part itself that you wanted others to be happy, the part itself that you wanted to give. There is no wrong in that, the opposite. This is a beautiful part of who you are, and we just need to teach you, to guide you. You need to learn for yourself, if it's not about a session, how to use that part of your character in the best way possible for yourself and for others, again, without hurting yourself, and without, of course, crossing your own boundaries or doing things against your own values, against your own identity, not identity, integrity, against your own.
For sure, and that works nicely with the sense of also we mentioned in a short discussion earlier a little bit about those sensations that we're somehow at fault. So not to cover what you said before, we are the main actors in our lives, but what other people or events that take advantage of who we are or our qualities, it's not now that it's our fault, or that we now very often have feelings of guilt or of shame about what has happened.
Absolutely, like let's say being unworthy, being a person that nobody wants to be next to us, feeling ashamed of our own being. Those are very obvious or common sensation people have when they carry the traumas through their life today. And when we focus on the person, we're actually really looking to or I'm looking often into the integrity, like let's find back your own integrity, because even in that moment of the event, even if you kind of left your own body, you looked from above, you were disconnected from everything that happened, you did that in order to protect your own integrity and to protect your own heart. And if we truly listen to your own heart and to that integrity in you, that part of you that maybe were hiding, that part of you that didn't know how to express itself during that event, we are actually we are touching a completely different parts of the person. And then I almost would like to say that then shame doesn't have a place in there. Like I hope that doesn't sound strange to people who listens, but I feel that shame can really change very, very quickly. I witnessed it often, that as soon as the person is not related to the story that they are feeling so ashamed of, but to who they are, to their integrity, to their wishes, to their resources, suddenly the shame is gone. It's not anymore about the abuse that happened, but it's about who was that person, what happened before and after and during, and what they created out of that. And that should be our focus, not when I almost would like to say that when we as practitioners focus again and again only on the story, we in some ways, without intentions, we bring this kind of shame to the surface, because the person has to focus on what happened and not on who they are. And it's a completely two different conversations.
I think that thoroughly went into a very great detail, and I think definitely covers those questions incredibly well. We're also reaching our time.
Wow, again.
Again, so easily.
30 minutes can be such a short time.
For sure, and especially with such an interesting topic, and one, as you said, affects every one of us to a larger or smaller degree, and is definitely something in the forefront when giving sessions, but also not the focus of a session per se. And so yes, while you don't teach specifically on trauma in the Pantarei approach, in the basic studies, but focus a bit more on it in the advanced studies.
Yeah, we in a way we focus I forgot completely that this life is also about the studies. So in the studies itself, of course, we relate to trauma. Nobody can teach anything that has to do with people without relating to trauma. We need to give it our minds, our hearts, our attention. And in the training, already in the basic training, mainly in our 4th module, the training is of 6 modules, we relate to the entire movement between the history, the present, and the future. One part of it is also to relate to traumas. Of course, the practitioners who want to dive into that topic way more would come to advanced studies, and where we would explore that topic with more depth. And maybe I would say, as the time is ending for what we, 30 minutes. I would still say, if you're there and you listen to us and you're not just interested in coming and study with us, which of course you are more than welcome. I think the Pantarei Approach profession is unbelievable in what it does and how it gives to people tools to deal with very difficult history of them that they went through. And so if you never received a session, book a session, or if you are interested to become practitioners yourself, of course, come and learn with us, because you would also learn how to relate to other people who deals with trauma. Once again, I think that dealing with trauma is not an individual thing. It's something that happens in all of our society. We need to know how to listen to other people who went through trauma. What do we want to focus on? And this is what practitioners of the Pantarei Approach learn for their professions, but they also learn how to do that for life, to how to talk about this topic, how not to ignore it. So many people hear that something happened to somebody and say, okay, I cannot ask about it because this belongs to the therapy room. This belongs to a professional field, and we lost a lot of the time the ability of just a person to person asking questions, get interested in what happened and why, and are you willing to talk about it? And if we focus not only on the story, but we focus on, wow, I just have loved you even more because I hear what you just said. I appreciate you even more now that I understand that this is what you went through. I think if this would become way common in our conversation, and it will not belong only to the therapy room, I think we would heal way better individually and also as a society. And I'm very proud that in our studies we relate to those topics not as something that is so rare, but actually the opposite, as something that we all need to know how to listen, how to respond, how to have a conversation of heart, of interest, of true attention to each other. And I believe that by doing that, we will grow together as, again, as a society, as a community.
For sure. And if anyone wants a taste of any of what we've been talking about, we have a lot of things coming up also in November. Closer to the end of the month, we have the Pantarei Flow with Claudia, which is an interactive online group workshop in which different topics are explored. That's on Wednesday the 23rd. We have an in-person with Merav, who's one of the teachers of the Pantarei Approach, in Berlin, giving a workshop entitled Enrich Your Life, Embrace Your Uniqueness. That's definitely not to be missed if you're in Berlin on Thursday the 24th. And with our wonderful Vered, we have another introductory meeting where she explores a little bit more in depth, should you be interested in the studies and what they entail, and there's space to ask all of these different kinds of questions. Whether it's an interest to become a Pantarei practitioner or use Pantarei in life and to have these conversations and to engage more in the society that we live in. So a great lineup for in a few weeks' time, and next month I'm sure we'll be back for another one of our Q&As or our Instagram lives. So I hope everyone joins us then. To look up any of these, just send us a direct message or go onto our website, pantareiapproach.com. All the information is there.
Thank you very much, my dear. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I really still am impressed by how the time just passed. So
flies.
we just started talking.
Yeah, there's so much more. Let's see if we can continue this topic or change dynamic a little, because there's many more aspects of this kind of Q&A that we can go into. So
yeah, and thank you very much for all of you that joined. Like, I see all of these, some of you names that I know, and I'm very, very happy to know that you joined us in this Instagram live. And until next time.
Until then, bye.
Ciao.